meditation class, and then afterwards, if anyone has a question, I'll be happy to try and answer it. So please try and work in depth inside, and we'll have a class. Muted everyone, and if anyone has a question, please try and sit still until the class is really completely over. You know, every one of us takes time for granted. You know, and we think that somehow, we exist here for an eternity. And time is a very precious commodity. It's a very precious item in the life of each and every human being. We're allotted a certain amount of time. It could be 50 years, 20 years, 70 years, 100 years in this body. And in that time, it depends entirely upon the conscious effort we make to build inside ourselves a connection with God, a spiritual life, because that's basically why we're born on the earth, is to learn how to transform the difficulty, the suffering into a spiritual life. And we take time for granted, we really do. We assume that somehow, in most people, they assume they're going to be here forever. And they're not, one thing I always tell people, I can guarantee everybody gets older. And it just simply depends upon what you do with your time between now and then. And I don't mean being fanatical, but I mean certainly making a sincere commitment to a spiritual life. And, just even a sincere commitment to this method of having a spiritual life, it means attending class. It means sitting down maybe a half hour a day and working on yourself and really making that commitment to do it. Because otherwise, time just kind of ticks along and we take it for granted, and eventually everybody gets older, And the interesting thing is, if you commit to a spiritual life, your body gets older, but your inner life gets younger. Your capacity to do in life grows. The vitality inside yourself grows. The body gets older. What can we do? Material things, they born, they live, they die. But the spirit, the soul of a human being, is something that's connected to what's infinite in the universe. And we as human beings are here to develop a chakra system that enables us to connect our soul with what's infinite and to develop in ourselves a higher consciousness. And that's not just about meditation, but it's about everything we do, the food we eat, the people we spend time with, clothing we wear, the cars we drive, whatever it is, we do it with consciousness. And that's how the meditation spills over into everyday life. There was a very great poet named William Blake who lived in I think it was the early 19th century. And one of his lines was, everything that lives is holy. And if everything that lives is holy, we can't take anything in life for granted. It's all sacred. It's God's domain. We live in a sacred place. And that makes sense to me. And I certainly try to live that way. And, you can't succeed all the time, but it's really a good goal to live as a member of this holy community, called life. Everything that lives is holy. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, Chakra, what role does intelligence play, if anything?
What is intelligence?
What role does intelligence play? What's it for?
Well, look, there's two types of intelligence. One is kind of IQ intelligence, the ability to use the mind to work out rational situations, to use the mind to figure things out. That's one level of intelligence. And that's an important level of intelligence because when we work, we do things, we need that intelligence, because most people don't understand the other intelligence. The other intelligence is when the mind is quiet, the chakra system is working properly, and spiritual energy flows through us. And it brings an intelligence that truly has a different kind of logic. It's a logic of something that is infinite in the universe. And it's that level of energy that gives us a kind of wisdom to live with, profounder knowledge to live with, a deeper understanding of life, the ability to see what's real in life, what's an illusion. And that kind of intelligence truly guides people to a state of enlightenment. But in order to receive that intelligence, we have to be open inside. The universe is waiting for us to open up. That's all. And all of that intelligence, it comes. It's like the Hallelujah chorus in Handel's Messiah. It's an explosion of energy that flows through us. And the other intelligence, that the rational mind, we need that also. But we can't substitute that for spiritual life or for that higher intelligence, which is our connection with what's infinite in the universe. And most people substitute that, for that other kind of intelligence, because the other kind of intelligence is an intangible thing. It just is something you experience and you live with, and it's completely intangible. You'll never understand it, and yet it just works. It works in such a miraculous way that one ultimately really trusts that more than anything. And then if you have to go to your computer and figure out all these, logons or whatever, you need your basic intellectual intelligence, the rational mind. You need that. But don't ever substitute rational mind for higher intelligence. They both work. They're both important in getting through life. One leads to enlightenment and it leads to a state of grace. The other one helps you get through the day and figure out problems and use that rational mind to earn a living, So I think they both are important. But, I've seen works of art that are created by logical minds, and they really are the most boring things you could ever look at. I've seen works of art that are really spirit flowing through the artist, and these things are miraculous. I've been listening to this series of music by Vivaldi called Sacred Music, and there's like 10 of them, and they show Renaissance paintings along with, actually 17th century paintings, along with the music. And some of them are so extraordinary. I can imagine the artist standing in front of them after when he finished. I did this. It's unbelievable. That's how beautiful they are. And, that's not the rational mind. That's true creativity. That's letting go of all the blocks in oneself and allowing that energy to pour forth, create things. But there's another level also. A lot of artists can do this, but then we have to live with the rest of life. And a lot, like Van Gogh cutting off his ear, the guy was a freaking, you put him in front of a canvas and God went through him. He created these miraculous pictures, In his everyday life, he couldn't live one day without being crazy. So what we're trying to do is to be creative and also live joyous lives so that whatever we do in life, there's openness, there's happiness, there's joy, there's love, there's self-worth. You know, we are a child of God living in the world. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? Anyone else?
When you have things like anger or aggression come up in the meditation, do you work to calm yourself, or do you bring that energy like into your flow? Like, I mean, are you using it, or are you just working to like
I
soothe it out?
bring it down to the third chakra and let it just become chi. That's what I've learned how to do. And that energy is just powerful energy, but you can use it. Anger is the same thing. If you master your inner light, then you can draw it down and it becomes chi, it becomes harmony, balance, rootedness. This is a very basic aspect of what I teach, what Rudy taught, and an essential one because it makes everything else possible. But you've got to, then you use your will, you use, you know, your internal need to grow, and you just, you know, you draw it down. And there's always, you know, look, and there's always going to be stuff like that. I don't care how long you study and do meditation, things are going to come up. Things that have been buried 100 lifetimes ago come up, you know, and you have to deal with them. But by learning the work, you know how to master these things. And you just use them that way. Positive things, negative things, you use them, turn them into energy, turn them into chi, foundation. That allows you to open your heart to receive the whole teachings of the universe, to transform yourself inside. I mean, it's a simple equation, you know. I really mean it. It's, you know, there's always going to be blocks, and they equal learning how to transform them into a spiritual life. I mean, Rudy always used to say, what's killing you can give you life if you learn to master yourself. It's true. They say the mind is the slayer of the soul, but the mind is also the tool we can use that can make it possible for us to attain a state of enlightenment if we bring it down here and use it to open the very core of our being. I mean, I repeat this so much, I almost sound like a broken record, you know, but I think this basic fundamental aspect of what I teach is such an important thing to learn. And I think that once you learn that, all the rest of it really just takes place. It all just comes.
Once you get your energy down there and your attention down there, do you just let go and let it absorb on its own, or are you trying to like absorb it in? Or?
No, you just keep your attention there, and the chakra will open, and the chakra will absorb the energy. Because the chakra is not like, you know, it's endless. It's, you know, it can really open as much as you allow it to open, and as much energy as you can absorb into it. And the best thing to do is just completely relax. Relax. Don't ever try to force chakras to get open. It doesn't work. It just gets tighter. You relax, you bring your attention there, the mind will open that chakra, and then you just do the breathing. And the breath will go into the chakra and expand it. You open the heart. All you need is gratitude. You don't need to force the heart chakra to open. All you have to feel is gratitude. Opens the heart. Then you breathe into the heart, expands the heart. Excuse me. And the deeper you relax inside, the more possible this whole thing is to open. You can't make it happen. You gotta just kind of let it happen, by just using the instruments that we have, the mind, the breath, the will, the need to grow, and using them to develop a system inside that enables you to do what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And, and look, I know this is not easy, and this is almost reversing everything we've been taught from the day we're born. We're taught to be up here and to figure everything out and to, but it's truly a miracle if one learns it. It really is. It transforms your life. And above everything else, it allows you to have a spiritual life. And I'm not teaching this because I manufactured this, I had the greatest teacher, probably the 20th century, that I spent 6 years with, in this deep and profound teacher-student relationship I had with Rudy. And he pounded this into me. He really made sure I learned this. So I'm not making all this up. I got training. It was an amazing relationship I had with him. And over those years, he just pounded this into me. He made sure I learned this. And then it took years to develop it. Learning it wasn't enough. It took years to develop it and allow it to become living experience. And then I'm trying to pass this on to all of you because it's really a miracle, It's a miracle when one masters this. And it doesn't mean I don't get tired. Today I've been very tired. But you do, you get tired and then you start doing God's work and all the tiredness goes away, always. Just goes away. And with all this coronavirus madness going on, and it's a hard time to be living in the world, but it's almost forcing us to become like monks living in caves, And the best thing we can do is learn how to go inside ourselves. It's the only freedom. It's the only way. It works. And this whole thing that's going on, in the world today, it's telling us, you got to go inside. It's another great teacher, this thing, I mean it. Because we have no choice. We can't, you can't go out and party, You can't do anything really. You have to internalize your energy and grow and use it to get closer to God, And this has been good for me because I was never very good at being a monk. It never worked for me. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I guess the question that I have is just to get a sense of the catalyst from, doing the work, being in the meditation, and then actually embodying it, actually being in the experience of it switching over. Because I heard, learning it and practicing it in a very significant way, yet there's still something that
Well,
it's
listen, Wendy, all I can tell you is have patience with yourself, grow inside, really develop all the things I talk about, and this will organically happen. It'll just organically happen. You can't make this happen. You have to grow to the point where it just, your life becomes a living expression of spirit, and it just happens. But you've got to have a lot of patience with yourself, and you have to do the inner work, and allow yourself to evolve and grow inside. And then what you ask just takes place. You know, it's not something I can outline on a blackboard and say, look, you'll get your degree in, 6 months and you're going to be living. It doesn't work that way. It works. And you don't even know when it happens. One day you're just living that way. I mean this. And, I always say enlightened people don't know they're enlightened. Anyone who tells you they're enlightened, just go in the opposite direction. Enlightened people just live that way. They don't know they're enlightened. They just live that way. It's an organic thing. They are a child of God living in the world. And it just happens. So you have to have patience and you have to do your inner work, and it just takes place. And I think that's a very incredibly good way to approach this, because then you don't say, well, if I don't get this in 6 months or 3 months, what's the point? And the point is you grow, you grow, you grow. And one day you're just living that way.
Thank you.
It's a nice way to live. And trust me, I'm not talking about this way because I was born from some lotus flower in the Himalaya mountains. This is some great avatar who came to the earth, I mean, it's been pretty difficult what I've had to go through it in my life. The same way with Rudy. He used to talk about his life and what he went through. It was unbelievable, the things he went through in his life. And even in the 6 years I was around him and I saw what he was going through, it was staggering. It was a staggering education for me of the amount of courage it takes to serve God in this world. And yet I loved it because he did it with a sense of humor. It was a joy to be around him when he wasn't busting your ass. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, there'll be a class on, on Sunday. I hope to see you all there, and let's let this thing just grow. And it's wonderful. The energy is so sweet and so nice. And I'm sitting here in front of a computer and it completely staggers me how sweet and beautiful this energy is of these classes. And I'm very grateful to share this with you and to be part of this with you.
Thank you, Stuart, profoundly for your service and what you said about this time with being monks in a cave. Thank you, all I can say.
Well, that's what we are, what can you do? I don't go out. I had 2 classes, one in Europe and one here today. Had dinner with my daughter, reading Shakespeare, listening to Vivaldi. It's pretty cool, It's pretty cool.
Yay.
Yeah. I never realized what a great composer. I always liked him, but it was always the Four Seasons, but this other stuff is unbelievable.
What's the name of it? I'm going to check it out.
It's called Sacred Music.
Thank you. Vivaldi.
You can find it on the greatest music library probably on the planet Earth, which is YouTube.
YouTube.
Something I've discovered YouTube. It's unbelievable.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. God bless you all. And I will see you hopefully on Sunday, and have a nice weekend.
You too.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you.